Good morning. Welcome to the March 21st, 2023 meeting of the Town of Chatham Historical Commission. I am Bob Lear, the Vice Chair, acting as Chair today because Frank Messina is absent, and I will give the little spiel first. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 16th, 2022, signing of an act relative to extending COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Section 30, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2023. And I'm not sure what's going to happen after that, but this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted both in person and via remote participation and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 414157874 hashtag, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. First item of business. Commissioner list. The attendance votes and all that.
Bob?
Excuse me a second.
Bob, this is Jane Moffett.
Hi, Jane.
We're having technical problems again. I'm sorry. I can call in. I am calling in.
Okay, well, I hear you. Do you hear me? I guess you do.
Good.
Okay.
I do. I hear you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. We changed our password or something.
Well, I've had similar issues. Okay, let's do the agenda. Mr. Messina is not here. Mr. Lear is here. Mr. Burlingame. Here. Ms. Moffett.
Here by phone.
Dr. Smolinski is not present. Mr. Aikman.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Ms. Porter is absent. Ms. Tennyson.
Here.
Okay. So we have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is the minutes from March 7th. I was not present, so I'm not going to have anything to say about it, but any suggested corrections or additions?
I move the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
I second. Jane?
All right, we'll do the roll call again. Mr. Messina is absent. I am abstaining because I wasn't here. Mr. Burlingame.
Yes.
Jane.
Yes.
Dr. Smolinski is absent. Mr. Aikman.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Ms. Porter is absent. Ms. Tennyson.
Yes.
All right, that's done. The first item on the agenda is, just disappeared, 33 Cockle Cove Road. And Mr. Cannon is representing himself regarding his dwelling, I take it.
You ready for me?
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't often get to do this, represent myself. I purchased this house 27 years ago, 2 hours after finishing architectural school, literally. And spent the next 4 months after that completely gutting it, adding a second floor, and have done nothing since. And it's time. So I'm hoping to get through the next 27 years with this remodel. But in order to do so, my wife and I decided it's probably best to tear off the wing on the east end. I just discovered last week that it actually was built in 1979, so pretty sure it's not very significant. And then we'd like to extend the dormer up above, which I built 27 years ago at each end, which I believe is about 3'10" on each end to get it to the edge of the roof. We just need more storage. This back room is going to house a new kitchen. Kitchen went into production today out in Colorado, so I hope you'll say yes. And I hope zoning board says yes. there's not much I can offer beyond the fact that we just need storage, and we're hoping by tearing this back wing off that we can put in a full foundation under it to gain a little bit. So.
Is the zoning issue one of setback?
It's not, actually, it's coverage. The lot is undersized, so it's literally, we're adding 4 feet to the length of the house. We'll be at 14% coverage where 15% is allowed.
I don't have any initial questions. Among other things, it obviously is going to look pretty much like the same from any viewpoint. I gather almost all of what you're doing is back into the...
It is. I mean, we will be reshingling. We'll put in new windows. We're going to retrim it. The only change is we'd like to put in black windows on for the sashes, but that's about the extent of it. Otherwise, it pretty much will look the same.
Okay.
And 2 windows at the front of the house, we may change. I think it actually helps, as you can see in the west existing, we have those 2 awning windows. I'm thinking I might want to put in 2 double hungs. Makes the house look better.
Okay. And there's no Form B on this, right? Christine?
There is an odd Form B for the property. It was a 3-parcel property. So it is part of it,
Oh,
but it
there is a-
actually, there's one of the parcels that when you go to the macros, it takes you to that parcel. They were all built around the same time. I think my house may have been the last, but it's hard to know. But the parcels were split up in 51, I think, 50 and 51. And it was all one cottage colony.
Did your house originally look like the other 2 in front?
It looked nothing like them. I think it was completely separate builder, but it was basically the little box that you see in the middle of all this mess.
Right.
So it was simply a 30 by 30 box or something like that.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Go ahead, Don.
I was there yesterday at the site visit, and I don't have any problem with this application.
Anybody else? Were you there yesterday, Janet?
I was there yesterday too, and I have no questions, and I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it. I was there yesterday afternoon.
And I went by too, so not. Jane, did you?
I went by on Sunday, and I didn't have any problems with it. I think actually if he changes those 2 little windows in the front, it will look a lot better. I like all the work that you do, Chris.
Thank you.
You've
What?
restored a lot of antique buildings in town, and you saved a lot of property, and I really appreciate that.
So with regard to historical significance, do we have a consensus that it is not? Other? Mr. Burlingame, would you produce a motion?
I certainly shall. In regard to 33 Cockle Cove Road, I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 33 Cockle Cove Road is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in 158-2. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second?
Second, Jane?
Stephanie?
Yes?
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes?
Yes.
And Jane? Jane, did you vote in favor?
I think she did.
I heard a noise. But Jane, one last chance. All right. Fine. No demolition delay. All right, let's go to second item on the agenda, which is 23-009, 44 Highland Avenue. And who's here?
Good morning. My name is Tom Palanza. I'm overseeing the design and construction on the proposed elevator addition for Holy Redeemer Church, and have with me today the pastor, Father John Sullivan. The parish has long desired an accessible route from the main parking lot to the church to facilitate access to the church level, to the basement, and at a grade level entry. So you can see in this, in the bird's eye view, that this is the proposed elevator addition. Presently, there's a antiquated chairlift in this corner that, as you can see, is very difficult to access from the parking lot. So we're proposing that the church along this gable end, and I'll show you in the next picture, be extended out to the edge of the existing parking lot to accommodate that addition. Is it Ann? Yeah, good. So if you look at this photograph, you'll see this outlined area here along that gable end. That's the proposed addition. We tried to keep the 6/6 double hung windows. You can see up here, even though it's in the attic space, it's a circular window. We're going to try to mimic those two windows in this kind of a grand entryway. And also, we'll be featuring a stained glass window from the turn of the century from a closed parish in Fall River inside that elevator entry. So that's pretty much the proposed addition. Would you like to go to the plan views on this?
I don't think we need to know about the interior. I think I explained that we don't need to go into the interior pieces. I gather from what you're saying, the rationale is that you want access to all 3 floors, and at the moment you don't have it, and putting it over where the semi-access is now doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to have a covered stairway inside, so right now they're all exposed to the weather. It's rather difficult and treacherous to use those stairs.
Okay. I'm going to editorialize for a second. I spent most of my career dealing with issues of people with disabilities, some 40 years ago, beginning then. And it's ironic in a way, all the pushing and shoving you have to get to do to push towns and other entities to do something like this. Religious institutions are not subject to the same rules. So you're
Right.
doing this
So this is a
for a good
voluntary
moral
act.
reason,
yeah,
yes.
To service the population now. So, and this will be a 2,500-pound elevator, not just a wheelchair lift.
Right.
So it'll be much more convenient for those who are walkers, canes, wheelchairs.
Good, I appreciate it. Any other concerns, questions? Jane, anything? Yeah. Well, let me hold back for 1 second. Is there a consensus that this building is historically significant? Yeah, all right. Mr. Burlingame, you want to start us with that? Yes. Are there any public comments other from the, we'd certainly be glad to hear from the pastor, but anybody in the public out there? Okay. Mr. Burlingame, sorry.
Just a comment first. I know of a couple of, I guess, former parishioners of the church who have been unable to attend church for a number of years now because of the lack of access. So I expect to see the numbers swell.
I think Father John's hoping for that, too.
Well, you're responsible. In any event, I would move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building and structure located at 44 Highland Avenue is historically significant because it is in whole or part 75 years or more. And as a consequence, it possesses architectural value of significance in terms of period, style, method of construction, or association with a historically prominent architect builder, either by itself or in conjunction with others.
I'll second.
Okay, Stephanie, your vote?
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Secondly, any thoughts on whether or not the proposed changes are significantly negatively impact the historic significance?
No.
Mr. Burlingame?
I I would move that. Thank you. I would move that the Chatham Historical Society Commission finds that the building and structure located at 44 Highland Avenue is not historically significant. The changes are not historically significant, and that there's no need to impose a demolition delay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Ms. Hamilton?
Yes,
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman?
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. You're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next up is 19 Old Wharf Road, which is application number 23-010. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Attorney Mike Ford here for the applicant. If I could, I'd like to just turn it over to Patrick Ahern. Peter Fletcher and I, Peter from Patrick's office and I were present for the on-site yesterday, but I think Mr. Ahern will make our presentation this morning if he's on. And I think they also need permission, Christine, to share their screen at some point if they could. So
Yes. I
with that,
believe it
Mr.
is.
Chairman, could I turn it over to Mr. Ahern?
Yes, sir.
Patrick?
Thank you. Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes?
Great.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we were before the commission in regarding the Cape House that you see in the photographs, and we received approval for its relocation and restoration and renovation. We're back today for a minor change to the one facade side elevation. And Pete, if you could put up the diagram, that'd be helpful. So the approved elevation is on the left side, and that has 3 windows at the lower level, and that one of the windows is non-historic, which is on the right, which was, I think, quite evident in the site visit yesterday. And then the other 2 windows, we believe, are historic. The original application that we sent to you recently included 2 new French doors with transoms and removal of a historic window. We've since taken a closer look at that and are sharing with you today a modification that we feel is a better solution. And that basically involves removing the transoms that we had originally suggested on the above the French doors, maintain the existing historic window in its existing location, which is in the center of the first floor, and then the non-historic window would be replaced with a French door, as you can see there. In addition to that, the board approved a stone veneer foundation on the cottage, and we are proposing to clad the chimney in the stone to match the stone veneer on the base. And those are basically the minor changes. The change in material in the elevation represents like 4.75%. So it's a very minor change in terms of the surface material, as you can see in the diagram. And that's essentially what we're doing. Everything else that has been approved is in the works, and we're quite pleased with the fact that we're restoring this house for all of us to enjoy, and Meg McCarthy and her family as well. That's my initial presentation.
I have a couple of Mr. Ford, anything to add? I have a few questions.
No, we're happy to take questions, Mr. Chairman.
With regard to the foundation cover, what did we approve? I don't see it on the plan. What was there originally, and was it changed from when we approved it?
I don't believe there's a change.
I think what he
It's a
said,
stone veneer.
yeah, I think he was suggesting that it was stone and that they're keeping a stone veneer on the cottage.
And what was the chimney?
The chimney was brick.
Brick.
Okay.
Yes. That's why that's being brought forward, obviously.
Right, and you want to change the chimney in order to match the foundation and to match the chimneys in the main house?
Yes.
I must say I have a problem with that, but
Me
we
too.
can, when we agreed to, I think begrudgingly allow the rear L to be removed, that was one sort of change, and now that rear L is facing the road, so there's a major facade change there. Now we're going to change the north facade and the chimney, so it's losing its lure as a historical building that's been moved over to a more prominent position. That's my thinking on the proposal. I appreciate the change you're suggesting on the north side, but any other comments from folks? Stephanie?
I'm bothered by the chimney.
Okay. Steve?
Excuse me, I'm clearly bothered by the chimney. Of course, the original representation, which I understand, it was perhaps, maybe a quick glance at what the chimney was going to look like. But I've seen, and I guess we all have seen, the changes to so many early colonial structures in town with a representation that they were going to be maintained, restored, whatever. And they've turned out to be anything but. I certainly would hope, as an example, that you folks would go down and look at the so-called restored original, excuse me, building at the end of Shell Drive. I couldn't understand initially when I first saw it what it was. And then it occurred to me that it was the original part of the original structure built by early Nickerson. And it's got it's got horizontal siding that matches this very modern home. It's got it has odd faux stone on its foundation. It looks anything but something that was saved and restored. There's a house not far from this one that we approved. It's now, it looks pretty much like an old colonial, except now it's about 8 feet in the air, which is not the way they were built. People didn't have to walk up 12 steps to get to their front door, but you do now. And it's, these two errors on our part have, I guess, motivated me to be more careful in the future as what we accept and don't accept. I think it's important for us to note that this building, the guest house, I guess it will be now, was in fact an original building, and that it has some historical significance. And for that reason, I'd like to see it have some uniqueness to its character, particularly including a brick chimney. I think too much of making everything the same is going to make it look the same. It's going to look less of a historic structure that was saved. It's going to be more like a modern accessory building. So I would not be motivated to approve the appearance of the chimney. I'm not crazy about the French doors either. Again, they make a significant change to the structure. Because they're on the north side, I'm less motivated to be negative about it. And I guess in the spirit of compromise, I would approve the French doors, but not the chimney.
Mr. Aikman?
I have a great recollection of this property going back quite a ways. I do not recall being involved in the decision to let the chimney on the main house be changed from brick to stone. But my feeling is that this is a historic building, had a brick chimney, and I think the chimney should stay brick. I appreciate the fact that we have a new design where the one window that is historic will be preserved, although we'll be losing another one. But I would go along with approving the changes except for the chimney. I would like to see that stay brick.
Janet, comments?
Yes, I think the change of removing the transoms above the French doors, which were really not common or didn't even exist in the old little Cape houses, that's an improvement. But the stone chimney just doesn't, it just isn't appropriate with saving the historic look of the little cottage that was being moved. Maybe put a brick chimney on the big house, you know? Anyway, I would say have a brick chimney and approve the French doors without the transom.
Understood.
I have another question, Mr. Ford, related to, I guess, that facade there, the north side. And do you have anybody that can speak to the landscape plan on board at the moment?
Peter, or somebody from Patrick's office may be able to.
All right. My question is, I'm looking at the, what is the place on the north side of the property, which has a number of circles which are indicating various pieces of vegetation, some of which are trees, but some of them are not, as far as I can see, identified. I mean, there's one at the absolute corner that I'm thinking is a juniper or an eastern red cedar, and then there's a couple of other what appear to be quite large trees up there. My point being that that facade may not be particularly visible once
That's
all
correct.
the plantings are done, but I can't just
I think that's the case.
well,
so-
if they're,
Right.
which they're not shrubs, I can tell, but are they substantial trees, I guess is my question.
Well, let me check with Mr. Hearn's office and see whether there's been any
Right.
changes.
He's trying to
If I
talk,
could-
Mike, I think, okay.
If I could comment on that, this is, the landscape architect, Dan Gordon, has prepared the plan, and there's a schedule of materials on the plan at the lower portion that describes, that describes the size of the trees and and what they are, et cetera. So the chairman's correct in that those are significant trees that are planted along that line, which will certainly screen the north side of the building in a significant way.
I understand that. What is missing, at least on what I'm looking at, is the three large trees up in the corner, except for one that's kind of off the page, don't have the identifying line on it, and that's why my question. I see it on just about every other large tree, and having been on the Conservation Commission, I look for things like this.
Sure. Again, since our office didn't prepare the plan, Dan Gordon did, I can give you that clarification, right away. But based on the technique in which the trees were designed, and the circles represent the canopy of the trees, I mean, it's clear that the intent is they are significant.
That's what I suspected. I just wanted to make sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so with that clarification, I'm certainly willing to go along with my fellow commissioners that nix the chimney change and go ahead with the proposed
Understood.
facade change. And could we get a motion to that effect? Is there anybody in the public? Or Jane, are you back? No. Any members of the public wish to contribute? Okay.
I believe that Janet authored a motion earlier.
The approval of the changes that include the French doors minus our plan, the picture in our plan, which has the transoms. So French doors without the transoms, and the chimney brick as opposed to stone,
And maintaining the one historic
and
window.
maintain and put a brick, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, I just, and
Mr.
remaining
Chairman,
is,
you may want to reference option B. I had them label it as an alternative.
Okay, and
Option
that's-
B,
Option
with
B.
the exception of the chimney, which will remain brick,
okay, excellent.
but adopt option B, but with that exception.
And just so we know,
I would repeat Attorney Ford's motion to make it our.
Wasn't intended to be a motion.
To make it our motion.
but,
Our motion.
yes, but I think what clarifies Ms. Tennyson's motion is that it is labeled that revised page A7A, so that we're literally all on the same page of what's being proposed, except for the chimney
Right.
description on A7A.
Yeah.
Okay, does that capture it, guys?
Excuse me, could we just reaffirm the historical significance?
Yes.
Before we do that, thank you.
That's next.
Okay.
Mr. Burlingame, can you do a little quick historical significance thing?
I guess I have a question, because this is we've already made those
Yeah,
determinations at
there
a
are already
previous
findings this
meeting.
building is historically
Yeah.
significant.
Right, no,
Yeah. But if you want to reaffirm it, that's fine.
Just because sometimes in the passage of time, something
get it.
has been discovered or whatever. I
get it.
remember Mr. Cannon came in once to do that exact thing. But
Okay.
just reaffirm
All right.
the historical significance.
Then I would move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building structure located at 19 Old Wharf Road is significant because it is in whole or part 75 years old or more, and it is associated with one or more historical persons or events. Also, that it possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period, style, method of construction, or an association with a historically prominent architect or builder, either by itself or in conjunction with a group of buildings or structures.
Second?
Okay, we'll take a vote. Stephanie?
I'll second. Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman?
Yes.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Mr. Ford, thank you for your,
Thank you. Have you voted the other motion yet? I'm
Oh,
sure you
yeah.
took a vote on the other
Thank you.
motion, which we need for approval.
Christina's supposed to tell me that. Mr. Burlingame?
That's a good question, what the motion ought to be, in terms of, certainly, we're not going to impose, I don't believe we intend to impose a delay, delay at all. I think was, in this case, it's appropriate that we only pass a motion that the proposed changes as we set forth
I would,
are appropriate.
I think we could just use what Mr. Ford has suggested, that the changes proposed in the application at page A7A do not significantly impair the historical significance.
To be sure.
Mr. Ford, I'm sure
No
you'd correct me if
No,
you had
that's
a
fine.
different thought.
That's fine. I think the chairman's right on.
I had such a motion previously.
It's not,
Turn the blue over.
The blue one.
Very well. The Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done dated, it looks like February 16th, 2033, and as shown as A-7A on a plan submitted by the applicant, will materially diminish the historical significance of the building.
I think the plan date is February 24th with the changes, is that correct?
The one on the screen,
Our papers say the 24th, I don't know, whatever. Oh, the changes today, okay, got it, okay. So March 20th,
yeah,
yeah.
presented this date as option B.
I'm concerned that any of our motions are appropriate, or pre-canned motions that we have. Because we've already found that it's historically significant. We don't impose, we had no intention of imposing a demolition delay. So I think it's really a matter of voting on the proposed changes. Do I have any support for that?
Yes, if you want. The format is motion 2B, with proposed work will not materially diminish the historical significance, and therefore, I think if we define that proposed work as we have done, then that covers what we need to do.
Would you like to propose a motion?
Sure.
Yeah, this was just an application as instructed for administrative review and approval. It was not a partial demolition application.
No, I understand, but
So
I think
So
it
if
did not go through the administrative approval process because it is a
Right.
significant change.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which is why we're here for the public hearing.
Right,
So
okay.
I
Well,
think your
I'll
motion
then-
is
I will
fine.
then propose a motion that the Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated today, March 20th, at page A-7A of the plan will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay. Okay?
Do we need to mention the brick?
Well, yes, the proposed plan as presented on A7A with a modification that the chimney be made out of brick. I think it can be faux brick. I don't know what, either way, it looks like brick.
Okay.
Got it?
the clerk would second that motion.
Thank you, clerk. Stephanie?
Yes.
We have,
Clerk.
yes.
Yes.
Janet?
Yes,
Jane, are you around?
I think we lost Jane.
Yeah, okay. All right. Chair also votes yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jane is online, but I think she's having maybe trouble unmuting herself. So maybe she's on the phone. She is. She's called in from her phone now. Not she switched numbers. No, now she's gone. She's gone.
Well, we don't need the vote. That's all.
She just.
The next application is in 4 parts, Next application is in 4 parts, all involving 155 Pleasant Street, and it's number 22-011. And if you introduce yourself and
My name's Larry Broody, representing the applicant for 155 Pleasant Street.
okay, you want to tell us,
So,
we have the plans, obviously, but it can give us a summary of what you're planning to do.
so as far as the house is considered, and I believe that's the first application, it's, the majority of the work is for interior alterations. If you don't mind putting up just one photo, the right-hand side. The, just one more page forward. Yep, so the top photo, the only real exterior work being done would be taking the 4 casement windows and making that an entryway from the driveway with steps. That room, the house has been renovated many times, and I think the last one was in the early 2000s. The entire left-hand side, if you were out there, is basically brand new, or not new, but newer, and same with the whole back half of the house. So that would be the extent of the, work on the main house.
Okay,
Bob, can you hear me?
yes, we can. We were missing you for a while.
Oh, you said it. I tried frantically to get back on. Frantically.
All right, well, now
Well,
we
now
get,
I'm on the phone.
okay, gotcha. I will try to remember to call on
I
you.
won't leave. I won't have nothing to vote on now except for one property. I feel badly.
Just to clarify, I think that you had a mention in your narrative about changing the siding on the driveway side, or possibly changing that?
Yeah, to match the rest of the house that had been shingled. So it would be the gray shingles, and then keep the front gable, the clapboard.
Okay. Let's first deal with historic significance, because I'm not entirely sure that that's relevant here. Any thoughts on whether this house is historically significant? There is no,
It is 75 years old, and I guess that by itself.
well, add to that, I guess, which is, I'm not entirely clear on it, for whatever reason, the Form B includes it as a contributing structure. So I guess it may be, answer, Steve, may be as simple as that. It's in the area and it's 75 years old, although
And it's included in the National Register, is it?
it's in the National Register District, right? So I think
Your confusion is right with mine.
Can I explain one thing, just how I broke it out? Obviously, house and garage, because it is a national, register district, and there is a full demolition requested on the garage. So I broke it out. It seems like the house was, not much going on, so I wanted to separate it out. But there is no Form B, but they are both contributing structures in the new National Register District in South
Right,
Chatham.
which, in my mind anyway, leads to a little bit of confusion, which Mr. Burlingame alluded to, as to how we deal with that. So,
And that, we got to plan these ahead of time. This is really seat of the pants type.
I'm just giving you further education as clerk.
Appreciate it. I think it's an it's an
Staff-
opportunity.
Staff development.
Yes, right.
So, I mean, just in absent the contributing structure, is there any feeling on the part of the commission that this is a historically significant structure? I guess, no.
I don't think so. Not having visited it yesterday, I don't think it really falls into that category.
We can certainly, as we've done, since it's not a full demolition, concede that it's historically significant and say that the proposed changes do not negatively impact that fact. That's one way of resolving this piece, and then we can get to the garage.
I'll second that.
All right, so,
I agree with Janet.
well,
I think we have to address our motion, because in terms of of the historically significant perspective, one of the findings is that it is historically significant because it is 75 years old or more. So that and this is, at least a portion of the building is 75 years old or more.
well,
Yeah, but Steve, not everything that's 75 years old is historically significant.
True.
And we've done that in the past. We've agreed that it's 75 years old, but it's not significant.
well, right, and that the two criteria that are on the standard motion are that it's listed, or is the subject of a pending application, and it's located within that historic district. So 75 years old, and so it meets criteria, and there are ors between the criteria, so I think it does meet that part in
Correct.
terms of the house. So it is,
I agree, but it's the look.
I think it is in fact 75 years old, and secondly, it is located within historic district.
right, so it qualifies.
So it does qualify as being historically significant, and I think we need to make that finding
Yes, no, I
before we proceed.
I agree. Was that a motion?
Then I would move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 155 Pleasant Street is historically significant because it is whole or in part 75 years old or more and is listed within an area listed in the National Estate or State Historic Register of Historic Places, or is in fact located within any historic district.
I will second that.
Okay, we'll take a vote on that part of it. Stephanie or
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman?
Yes.
Tennyson?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes. All right, now, the changes to that building, which are the next part, do we feel that that negatively impacts the historic significance? And while I'm at it, is there anybody in the public that wishes to comment on this before we finish it up? No, okay.
That I would now move that in two parts, that the commission, the Chatham Historical Commission, confirms that the dwelling at 155 Pleasant Street is a contributing structure in the National Historic Register District. And we further find that the proposed alterations, additions, renovations do not constitute a substantial alteration to a contributing structure located in a National Historic Register District, and therefore a referral to the Cape Cod Commission for review is not necessary.
second,
Stephanie?
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman? Mr.
Yes.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Jane, your vote, I'm sorry.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, now, we're getting there. Get a page. Let me just. Okay. Now, as to the garage, that's a full demolition, right?
Yes. So the intent is to raise the garage, rebuild in the existing footprint as it's pre-existing, non-conforming, to make it more usable. And when we were out there yesterday, as members saw, it's been modified, changed, renovated, added on to multiple times. Not much of the original structure is left, and produces grade issues for the driveway sloping back from the street into it. We've explored what we could do to use what's there, but a cost benefit for using what's there versus starting new and building a structure more complementary to the house, we think will be more beneficial.
Any thoughts, concerns about the garage from the commission?
I was there yesterday at a site visit, and we looked inside, and the only thing that's left of the historic building is one wall, where has some timbers or structural members that are obviously full dimension. The rest of the building has been modified so many times, so I don't have any problem with this application.
I agree with Mr. Aikman. As he pointed out yesterday, there were some boards on the back wall, and that was it. It bears no resemblance to what the original, and it isn't really historic, is it? Is it done? I didn't see anything.
I think, once again, it just falls in the category of being in the area and
Old.
75 years old.
Yeah.
Now, the complication here, at least semantically, is that if it's a contributing structure, then some might say that a full demolition needs to lead to a referral, but that would be nonsensical, I think, in this case, but, so,
Is the garage listed as a contributing structure?
yes.
That first page in your packet shows, right, I think you just had it. The second page is the listing in the new National Register.
Can I ask a question just for my own education? Is it a circle drawn and then meeting the two requirements within that circle being 75 years? Or is each property evaluated to make that list?
To make this list for the National Historic Register is an individual building-by-building survey that was done
Okay.
a couple of years ago. And it's part of a long process. So each building,
So it's not
the
just a
list,
clean
for
swipe?
No,
Okay.
the building list here, I mean, has some that are listed as non-contributing. I think quickly eyeballing it, they're the ones that were newer. Well, no, I mean, that were non-contributing, although I see a circa 1963 that was contributing, so I kind of know.
Okay, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, right. So I would, I guess, suggest going ahead because it's the rational thing to do and approve a full demolition. I mean, we have to find it, that it qualifies as a historically significant based on its being on the register as a contributing structure, and then just say that even so, we're not going to refer it to the Cape Cod Commission and move ahead. And maybe work on our forms.
You make such good motions.
I think it's really perhaps quite simple if we change it a bit. And I would move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the garage located at 155 Pleasant Street is a contributing structure in the National Historic Register District. But notwithstanding, the commission further finds that its demolition is not a significant alteration insofar as it being a contributing structure, and therefore a referral to the Cape Cod Commission for review is not necessary.
I'll second.
Vote, Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Aikman, Ms. Tennyson.
Yes.
Yes. Jane?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes. Now, we still need to do the Chapter 158, Mr. Burlingame. No demolition delay.
I might point out that Mr. Vudi has made every effort to use and maintain old material, old materials that could be reused in his past projects. And there's a good one right across the street, or diagonal adjacent, that is an example of that. So I don't think we're making a major departure here with a historical structure.
Thank you.
Then I would move that in regard to the garage at 155 Pleasant Street, that the proposed work to be done dated, help me out if you might, dated February 27th, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the property, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman?
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson?
Yes.
Jane? Ms. Moffett?
yes,
And chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Just as a comment, I think in the past, in the near past, since I've been clerk, I've been a little bit constrained by these proposed motions that we have in our packet. and find that in many circumstances, they don't quite fit. And what we do is we wind up adding all kinds of information about the property being built by a person of significance or lived in by a person of significance, things of that nature, which are really inappropriate. And I think that either we're going to rewrite these or give them more flexibility, or certainly an opportunity to be more flexible, to make them more accurate. And I think that will still serve the purpose of us finding something is historically significant or not, the reasons for it, maybe not. We may not have to elaborate on those as they're set forth in these motions. But I think that the motions are great in some circumstance and lead us in the right direction. But I think that with the approval of the commission, that we understand that they can be restated in a way that more appropriately reflects what we're looking at.
I have no problem with that. The language came out of the bylaws, though, so the idea is to at least have some legal criteria consistent with the bylaws, other than we like it or we don't like it.
Understood, right?
Okay. All right, I think that concludes our hearing process. If I can find the agenda again. I did speak to Mr. Messina on Saturday, I guess, and he didn't have too much to say about the old business topics. I think the process of the surveys through the Department of Community Development is nearing some sorts of fruition, so there has been movement, although no closure on those things. The Nickerson home site, I know that there have been meetings between the Nickerson folks and people from the Conservation Foundation regarding getting that work completed, both in the meadow in front and in the piece in back, the dig area. One of the concerns about the dig area is how to give it visibility and information without sort of trampling on the whole historic site. So we've been working on Q codes, what are those? QR codes on posts and
QR
how many? And,
QR code.
Right, thank you, Jane. You've got better young person information than I do.
Not
So
this morning.
that's moving along. Survey plan, again, is being worked on. I don't know anything about the Monomoy Theater property. And the applications process, or the review of the applications, is still in process. And at least Christina and I have been looking at some modifications to the administrative review process, which will allow us to issue a determination instead of just taking a vote. So it'll be back to looking at a motion process and a notification process about why we reached that decision. No ratifications, no demolition delays. For the commission's general knowledge, I will inform you from personal knowledge that 305 Main Street is virtually demolished to the extent that is allowed to be demolished. The main house rear is gone. The main house itself is up on cribbing, waiting to be lifted. And the cottage, when I left home, was a pile of rubble on the ground with it's an interesting process. It looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex is eating a Brontosaurus. It's scary. It really is. But anyway, that's where that is. Any other new business for folks here? Entertain a motion from anybody.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
Mr. Aikman?
Yes.
Ms. Tennyson? Jane, you move
Yes.
to adjourn? Thank you. The chair
Yes.
moves to adjourn. Okay, we're done, guys. Thanks very much.
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry about